Welcome back, everybody, to Weather Animations. Today, we investigate the 2008 Atlantic hurricane season, where 17 tropical depressions formed, 16 of which reached tropical storm status, 8 hurricanes, and 5 the unprecedented major hurricane status. In all, this hurricane season caused 1,073 total fatalities and nearly $50 billion in damages. So please stay tuned and watch with me as the 2008 Atlantic hurricane season unfolds from beginning to end. We begin this Atlantic hurricane season looking at Tropical Storm Arthur. Arthur made landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula as a tropical storm. Next up, we have Hurricane Bertha, about a month later. Bertha was the first hurricane, as I mentioned, and the first major hurricane of the season as well. Bertha peaked out with maximum wind speeds at 125 miles an hour and minimum central pressure of 952 millibars. Bertha was pretty much a fish storm. It did make a close pass to the island of Bermuda. However, the impacts there were relatively minimal as it did pass to the east, which is on the left front quadrant of the storm. So winds there are not nearly as strong as the right front quadrant. Bertha did not do too much more than that. It just kind of hung out in the Atlantic for quite some time. Nearly 3 weeks was the duration of Bertha. But I wanted to take this time to let you guys know that you can leave comments in the comment section below and let me know what kind of videos you guys are looking for the future. I have plenty more of these hurricane videos for the future, as obviously there's 12 more Atlantic hurricane seasons after this one, and plenty more from before when I started in 2000. All right, Bertha is ending its path now, and we move on to Tropical Storm Cristobal. Cristobal formed off the coast of South Carolina. It did peak out at an intensity of 65 miles an hour, but it didn't do so until after it left the coastal regions, where it just kind of sped off towards the north and east, not making any impacts to land. After which we have Hurricane Dolly. Dolly made landfall as a tropical storm in the Yucatan Peninsula before re-emerging out the other side and becoming a hurricane just prior to landfall in southern Texas, where we see right here. After which Hurricane Dolly just kind of meandered its way towards the north and west along the Rio Grande River and just producing heavy rainfall from there on. After which we have Tropical Storm Edouard. Edouard formed in the Gulf of Mexico there and did make landfall as a strong tropical storm. Again, just bringing mainly heavy rainfall to the area. After which we have Tropical Storm Fay. Fay was interesting in its path as it just decided to cross over many Caribbean islands just because. It crossed over Hispaniola, as we see there, crossing over Cuba as we speak now, the Keys of Florida, and then the peninsula. As we can see, Fay just decides to reemerge out the other side real quick before turning towards the west. And yes, making landfall again in Florida, where it produced heavy rainfall. Maximum wind speeds for this storm was only 70 miles an hour, which is just shy of hurricane status, and the minimum central pressure 986 millibars. In general, Fay was just mainly a unpleasant weather storm, if you will, and produced mainly heavy rainfall for those areas. Next up, we have our next major hurricane of the season, forming near the end of August. Gustav was the next in terms of major hurricanes, with 155 mile an hour sustained winds. You can see there another impact to the island of Hispaniola. There's Jamaica, it's just kind of meandering around that island, luckily only as a tropical storm. And this is where Gustav becomes dangerous. Category 4 hurricane as it crashes into the island of and country of Cuba. And then makes landfall in the United States, again as a hurricane, this time not major. The minimum central pressure for the storm was 941 millibars. And Gustav was the first hurricane of the season to be retired. Next up, we have Hurricane Anna. Anna did make some impacts to land. Maximum wind speed was only 85 miles an hour and just barely hurricane status. And minimum central pressure, 977 millibars. As we can see now, Hannah is making a close pass to the islands of the Bahamas, and it's kind of just going to make a loop around here, making a close pass to the island of Hispaniola, as we can see there, before running north and west along the Bahamian Islands, where it decides to then make landfall on the border between North and South Carolina, and then impacting the coastline of the United States as it went north. Moving on, we have our next major hurricane of the season, Hurricane Ike. Ike formed way out in the open waters of the Atlantic, just west of the nation of Africa. Ike peaked out with maximum wind speed 145 miles an hour, minimum central pressure 935 millibars. As we can see here, Ike did not give up its major hurricane status for quite some time. Cuba, very big impacts this year from hurricanes and tropical storms. As we could see, many hurricanes and tropical storms did make either close passes or direct impacts to the island. Ike then went on into the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico, where it decided to make landfall in eastern Texas as a Category 2 hurricane. This was the next retired storm of the season. Next up, we have Tropical Storm Josephine. Luckily for us, Josephine was a fish storm and did not make any impacts to land. The maximum wind speed for the storm was only 65 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure at 994 millibars. We can see Josephine quickly diminished into a tropical depression and even an open wave, where it will remain at this intensity for the rest of its lifetime. Next up, we have Hurricane Kyle, which formed in the western Atlantic there and just kind of decided to track northward. Its maximum wind speed, 85 miles an hour, minimum central pressure, 984 millibars. Kyle did make an impact to Nova Scotia and brought some heavy rain and wind there. Next up, we have Tropical Storm Laura. Laura formed at a high latitude, not altitude, and while it did create hurricane force winds for a short time, it was obviously subtropical or extratropical at that time. Laura did not make any impacts to land. However, it was named as a storm due to its tropical characteristics. Next up, we have Tropical Storm Marco, which formed in the far southwestern Gulf of Mexico and made landfall in Mexico there. Next up, we have Tropical Storm Anna, another short-lived storm and a fish storm there. Barely a tropical storm with maximum wind speeds at 40 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure, 1,004 millibars. Next up, we have Hurricane Omar. Omar was another major hurricane. Maximum wind speeds 130 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure, 958 millibars. Luckily, Omar decided to thread the needle between some islands there, so its impacts were not major. However, it did produce some damages. Next up is Tropical Depression 16. This is the only non-named storm of the season and just brought some heavy rainfall. Next up, we have Hurricane Pamela. Pamela was a major hurricane and the last storm of the season, 145 mile an hour maximum wind speeds. And yes, Cuba is in the path of destruction yet again. As I've mentioned before, Cuba was impacted by many storms this season, and its death toll and destruction were catastrophic as a result. Pamela did not do too much more after that, as just kind of meandered around the Gulf of Mexico, and as a late season storm just got sheared as a result. This was the last retired storm of the season. So with that, I wanted to thank you for watching this episode of Weather Animations, where we took a look at the 2008 Atlantic hurricane season. If you have any comments, questions, please do feel free to leave them below. And for future videos, stay tuned and subscribe to this channel, because we have many more of these animation videos coming, whether it be for hurricanes, winter storms, etc. You guys let me know what you want, and I'll be there to make them for you. Thank you, and have a great day.